Put your money where your mouth is. We've never seen that happen. You keep calling it.
Northern Life and CBC recently hosted a roundtable discussion with Sudbury's federal candidates. Glenn Thibeault, incumbent NDP MP for Sudbury, Liberal Party candidate Carol Hartman, and Green Party candidate Fred Twilley discussed a variety of issues and answered questions from the audience. Conservative candidate Fred Slade was not in attendance. He told organizers he had agreed to a previous commitment.
In Sudbury, we've dealt with a lot of unemployment above the national average, and we've had a major strike at Valley. So, Carol Hartman, start with you this time. What would you do to ensure that the economic recovery we're seeing in Canada does include Sudbury?
Well, firstly, I want to remind everyone that the best economic stewards are the Liberals. We were the ones who cleaned up the Mulroney deficit of $42 billion. We are the ones who have had a balanced budget. In fact, the Conservatives have never balanced the budget, and the Progressive Conservatives last balanced the budget in the early 1900s. We left the Conservatives with a $13 billion surplus, which Mr. Flaherty spent long before the recession ever hit. Mr. Flaherty and Harper are the highest spending government ever.
Now, these are calls for spending that the Liberal Party and the NDP made during the start of this economic downturn, though. You were asking for this spending.
That was for the stimulus. I'm talking, Marcus, before the recession hit. So before the end of 2008, the $13 billion surplus that the Liberal government had left the Harper government with had been spent.
So what are you saying the Liberals will do to ensure Sudbury is part of this economic recovery?
Part of the economic recovery, firstly, we will look at investing in creating small and new businesses. That's where you stimulate the economy. You don't stimulate the economy by giving huge corporate tax breaks to the richest, largest corporations in Canada. Experts have clearly said that will not stimulate the economy. They're stockpiling their monies. They're not reinvesting. So we want to invest in small businesses and in medium-sized businesses. And what we will do, and as I had already indicated, to encourage hiring youth, we will allow for the EI holiday for up to 3 years. So if you are hiring kids, I should say youth between 18 to 25, you get that EI break.
All right, I want to hear from Fred Twilley on this, about the economy in Canada and what needs to be done to strengthen it.
The green economy is considered the business opportunity of the century. There are so many more jobs, sustainable jobs, available in the green economy than anywhere else. By investing in energy conservation, in green energy, we will effectively make our businesses more competitive. That's going to protect the jobs in the traditional industries that are in this country. I mean, a precise example for our mines. We have a tremendous potential for geothermal energy in the mines. It has been, studies have shown that this has shown a very high rate of return in recent projects. There just may not be the capital available to it. So providing low interest, low interest loans, and for the capital for this, we could, the companies could utilize all this beautiful geothermal energy, which has no downside that I know of, not like the potential downside of wind and the expanse of solar, and heat the buildings on surface. They could dramatically reduce the cost of production. When you reduce your cost of production, you can then add lower grade ore into your ores, lower grade material into your ores, and extend the life of the mines, improve the efficiency of the extraction of mining. You're helping a traditional industry, and you're creating jobs in the green energy, green economy.
All right, Glenn Thibeault of the NDP, the economy.
Well, the first thing we need to do is protect the jobs that we currently have, especially here in Sudbury. With the Investment Canada Act that we've seen when we talked, and you mentioned it right off the top, with the strike with Valley and with Xstrata, what we need to do is make sure that this Investment Canada Act has a net benefit for Canada. And the loss of 686 jobs right off the bat with Xstrata, the loss of jobs at Valley, and then the strike, there has been no net benefit to Canada. We want to see companies, when they come in and they do a foreign takeover, we want to ensure that there's some foreign investment, not foreign takeover. And so we would like to have the workers involved, the community involved, and have that discussion, and bring the federal government and all governments involved to protect those jobs. So that's the first thing we can do. But some of the things that we're talking about is we want to create a job creation tax credit of about $4,500 per new job. So that's giving all employers an incentive to create jobs, especially right here in Northern Ontario. We want to extend by 4 years the accredited capital cost allowance for job creating investments in machinery and equipment by manufacturers. One of the things I've been doing since I've been elected is talking with many of the small businesses in the mining sector who are talking about how they need this to continue to expand, and when they expand, they actually hire people who come to our community, so that's a great opportunity. We want to make sure that FedNor becomes a standalone agency, so we can actually get the investments in the North by decisions being made by Northerners. Right now, it's done as a one-off with industry, with the minister from industry, Tony Clement, and we'd like to see the level of funding double from $50 million to $100 million. But I'd also like to mention too that my colleague from the Liberal Party mentioned that they were able to pay off their deficits and had a surplus of $13 billion. That was done on the backs of workers contributing to the EI fund, and they used $55 billion in the EI fund to make sure that they can pay that off, and they put that into general coffers. And in the last few budgets, the Conservatives made sure that that money would never be paid back. So when we're talking about all the expansion that we want to do in EI right now, that actually could have been done if that money wouldn't have been used, because that's workers' insurance money.
Tara Hartman.
With respect to the FedNor standalone, that is something that the Liberals have always wanted. And I want to remind my friend that had Mr. Layton not stood with Mr. Harper to bring down the Martin government, we today, here in Sudbury, would have a standalone FedNor.
That was the Canadian people that wrote it.
Fred, your thoughts on FedNor and its role?
When you have these programs, you know, so many dollars for a new job, so much infrastructure money thrown out there, we have to make sure that that money is channeled in the right direction. We had phenomenal amounts of infrastructure money that are being spent. Now, a lot of that money went to just anything that was shovel-ready. If that money had been focused on projects which led to future cost reductions down the road, then the benefits would have continued after the money ran out. I mean, it's great to offer a job. Okay, you create a job, we'll give you so much money. But what if that job is not sustainable? What if that job, once the money runs out, well, it's no longer economic, the job's not. Let's create jobs which reduce costs, which benefit society as a whole in a much more different way, so that the benefits continue after the money's run out.
So what do you think about it, Glenn?
Northern Life and CBC will be co-hosting another roundtable with candidates from the Nickel Belt riding on Thursday, April 14th. The public is welcome to attend the discussion at the Howard Armstrong Centre in Hanmer at noon.
I want to know my home is Sudbury.